In the late 1990s, an eerie sound shook the scientific world. Captured deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, it was louder than anything ever recorded underwater. Nicknamed the Bloop, this strange booming noise triggered imaginations everywhere. Was it an undiscovered sea monster, a natural disaster, or just another trick of the restless ocean? At its heart, the Bloop was a mystery of sound. Unlike a shipwreck or a missing plane, there was no wreckage to examine, no bodies, no debris. Just a chilling, low-frequency noise picked up by microphones. It was invisible, impossible to locate, and hauntingly powerful, echoing across thousands of miles beneath the sea. The discovery came from the U.S. Navy's Cold War technology. Decades earlier, the Navy had laid hydrophone arrays, underwater microphones, to track enemy submarines. When the Cold War ended, these listening networks were partially shared with scientists. NOAA researchers suddenly had ears in the deep, capable of catching sounds that humans had never heard before. One sound in particular stood out in 1997. The recording was so loud it dwarfed familiar noises, louder than earthquakes, louder than volcanic eruptions. To put it in perspective, it could be heard on sensors over 3,000 miles apart. No whale, no machine, no known phenomenon could explain a noise that powerful, at least not at first. The Bloop wasn't just strange, it was unsettling. Internet forums, tabloid headlines, and even cryptic mentions in documentaries quickly ran with it. People compared it to the roars of mythical beasts. Some swore it was proof of Lovecraft's fictional monster, Cthulhu, awakening in the deep. Others wondered if it came from something alive, something colossal beyond imagination. Scientists at NOAA, however, weren't so quick to leap into fantasy. They knew that the ocean is full of unexplained sounds. Whales produce eerie songs. Icebergs crack, scrape, and boom with incredible force. Undersea earthquakes pulse through the water. To them, the Bloop was another puzzle, but one with an answer that demanded patience and evidence. Still, patience is a hard sell. Pop culture thrives on quick mysteries and thrilling monsters. The Bloop became a meme long before memes were mainstream. Chat rooms and websites labeled it the loudest sound never explained. Speculation outpaced science. People loved the idea of a monster more than the promise of a natural explanation. Yet behind the sensationalism, NOAA scientists worked quietly. They compared the Bloop's audio signature to known phenomena. They studied its frequency, its pattern, its speed. Slowly, clues emerged. It didn't behave like an animal call. It didn't match volcanic rumbles. Instead, it seemed closer to another, less glamorous but still awe-inspiring source: ice. At the same time, the legend of the Bloop kept growing. Documentaries mentioned it in the same breath as UFOs and sea serpents. Fans of horror fiction pointed to its location, near the remote South Pacific, as if it were destiny. But the truth, scientists argued, was no less fascinating. It was just hidden in geology, not mythology. The hook was irresistible because it tapped into a primal human instinct. The ocean is Earth's last frontier, vast and unexplored. When we hear something we cannot see, our imaginations fill the gaps with monsters. The Bloop was proof of that, an invisible roar reminding us how little we know and how much we crave stories to explain the unknown. The most haunting detail was the scale. A single sound was picked up across nearly the entire Pacific Basin. That level of intensity implied a source larger than any known creature. Whales, the ocean's giants, couldn't produce anything close. It was as if something titanic, something ancient had stirred in the planet's deepest waters. This wasn't the first mystery sound NOAA logged. Others had names like Julia, Whistle, and Slowdown, each baffled researchers at first, sparking theories of unknown beasts. The Bloop, though, was louder, stranger, and far more captivating. Unlike the others, it went viral, escaping the scientific community and landing firmly in the public imagination. Part of the fascination came from timing. In the late 1990s, the internet was spreading, and online forums became hotbeds for speculation. Stories of monsters gained traction quickly. The Bloop was shared in chat rooms alongside grainy UFO photos and Bigfoot sightings. It became the perfect blend of science and storytelling, just enough truth to keep people hooked. But NOAA's mission was never entertainment. They used the Bloop to refine their understanding of natural sound sources. Each hypothesis was tested against data: volcanic tremors, tectonic shifts, massive underwater landslides. The results didn't line up. Slowly, the list narrowed. And the pattern of the Bloop began to look suspiciously like something scientists already knew: the voice of icebergs. Glaciers and icebergs are not silent. As they crack, splinter, and collide, they produce powerful acoustic signatures. Some sounds rumble, others boom like cannon fire. When massive chunks break apart, the noise can travel hundreds of miles. The Bloop, with its low frequency and drawn-out roar, fit this description better than any living animal call ever could. The South Pacific, where the Bloop was recorded, is home to Antarctic icebergs drifting north. These colossal towers of frozen water can scrape the seafloor, collapse dramatically, or grind against each other. Each movement produces a sound that resonates across the ocean. To NOAA, this was a strong clue that the Bloop wasn't a beast but ice tearing itself apart. Still, the comparison wasn't perfect at first. The Bloop had unique tonal qualities. It seemed organic, almost alive. This kept conspiracy theories alive. People argued that no iceberg could sound like that. But as NOAA cataloged more ice quakes and glacier noises, similarities emerged. Slowly, the Bloop's once unique voice was matched with dozens of icy cousins. The confirmation came in the early 2000s, when other hydrophones recorded new sounds almost identical to the Bloop, but traced directly to Antarctic icebergs breaking. Side by side, the waveforms were nearly indistinguishable. The mystery had an answer. The loudest ocean sound ever recorded was not a monster but ice shattering with planetary force. When NOAA announced the explanation, reactions were mixed. Scientists were satisfied. They had solved a riddle using evidence. Enthusiasts, however, were disappointed. Just ice? They scoffed. They wanted Cthulhu, not glaciers. But as NOAA researchers reminded the public, icebergs are anything but boring. They reshape coastlines, influence climate, and when they break, they roar louder than any living creature. The Bloop story reveals a deeper truth about humanity. We often prefer extraordinary explanations, even when ordinary ones are equally amazing. Icebergs may not be monsters, but they hold a different kind of awe. They're moving mountains, cracking and booming across the ocean, their power echoing for thousands of miles. That, scientists argue, is wonder enough. For years after NOAA's announcement, the legend of the Bloop refused to die. Internet forums clung to the monster theory. Memes and videos claimed scientists were covering something up. After all, isn't classified Navy data the perfect breeding ground for conspiracy? Yet the truth was already in open reports waiting for anyone willing to read them. The comparison to Lovecraft's Cthulhu didn't help. In horror fiction, Cthulhu slumbers in the deep Pacific until disturbed. When the Bloop was reported near the same region, fans couldn't resist linking fact to fiction. Articles spread declaring, "Science proves Cthulhu is real." It was playful exaggeration, but it blurred the line between entertainment and evidence. For scientists, that blur was frustrating. NOAA staff stressed that public fascination was welcome, but misinformation wasn't. They explained that hydrophones pick up hundreds of strange sounds every year. The ocean is noisy, alive with rumbles, crackles, and calls. The Bloop was extraordinary in scale, yes, but not in kind. It was part of a bigger acoustic story. This bigger story is essential. By studying underwater sounds, NOAA learns about whale migrations, volcanic activity, and even climate change. Hydrophones give scientists ears where cameras cannot go. They tell us about earthquakes in remote trenches or the cracking of ice sheets thousands of miles away. The Bloop's fame, ironically, brought attention to this valuable research. Still, it highlighted the tension between science and storytelling. Science demands patience, data, and repeatable results. Storytelling craves drama, mystery, and instant answers. The Bloop lived at the intersection of both. It was data dressed as legend. The challenge for NOAA was to honor curiosity, without letting fantasy overshadow the real, awe-inspiring forces of the ocean. Those forces are staggering. Consider that an iceberg large enough to produce the Bloop can weigh billions of tons. When it fractures, The energy released equals small earthquakes. These aren't rare events, but they're usually invisible to human senses. Hydrophones revealed them, giving us a glimpse into the raw mechanics of Earth's frozen giants. The bloop also underscored how vast and unexplored our oceans remain. Even with satellites and sonar, more than 80% of the seafloor is unmapped. Most of Earth's underwater sounds are still mysteries. Each hydrophone recording is a reminder that the ocean holds secrets. Sometimes strange, sometimes mundane, always humbling in scale and power. And yet, mystery can be useful. The bloop captured imaginations in a way no glacier ever could. It drew people who might never care about ocean science into the conversation. Teachers used it in classrooms. Documentaries used it as a hook. The monster may not exist, but the curiosity it sparked was real and valuable. In fact, NOAA scientists often say the real monster is climate change. The same icebergs that boom with such volume are melting faster than ever. Their breakup not only makes mysterious sounds, but also raises sea levels, alters ecosystems, and threatens coastal cities. The bloop wasn't a creature, but it was a warning. Our ice is collapsing. Seen this way, the bloop's legacy is larger than its legend. It reminds us that science and myth often travel together. People love stories of monsters, but they also learn from stories of ice. NOAA solved the sound, but the mystery lingers. Not of what made it, but of what it means for our planet's future. When NOAA finally confirmed the iceberg explanation, some enthusiasts felt cheated. They had expected monsters, not glaciers. But disappointment misses the point. The sheer force of an iceberg shattering is staggering. Imagine billions of tons of ice collapsing, sending shockwaves through the sea. That is a natural spectacle just as impressive as any mythical beast. The bloop also demonstrated the importance of patient science. It took years of comparing waveforms, analyzing recordings, and waiting for similar events to occur. Unlike viral theories, science builds slowly. Each new iceberg collapse confirmed the pattern. Eventually, the evidence was undeniable. The bloop wasn't extraordinary at all. It was simply the ocean revealing itself in unexpected ways. This lesson echoes through history. Many once mysterious phenomena, auroras, earthquakes, eclipses, were attributed to supernatural forces until science caught up. The bloop fits into that tradition. Humanity loves mystery, but mystery shrinks under investigation. What remains is often more interesting. Real processes shaping our world. Icebergs don't need legends to be incredible. Their reality is already beyond imagination. Pop culture, however, rarely lets go. Even after NOAA's findings, the bloop continued to appear in documentaries, video games, and online lore. Writers loved framing it as still unexplained. That ambiguity kept audiences intrigued. In truth, the mystery was solved. What remained was our preference for the unknown, proof that myths survive long after facts are revealed. NOAA scientists weren't upset by this. In fact, some admitted the myth helped raise awareness. Ocean research rarely captures headlines. Funding and attention are scarce. If the bloop got people talking about hydrophones, climate, and the polar regions, then the legend served a purpose. It was a reminder that science communication often starts with wonder, not equations. This wonder connects to something deeper, our relationship with the ocean. For centuries, sailors spun tales of krakens, mermaids, and haunted waters. The bloop is part of that continuum, a modern myth born of microphones instead of ship logs. In every era, the sea has inspired stories that reflect both fear and admiration of its vastness. The bloop also illustrates how technology changes myth-making. In the past, mysteries came from what sailors saw. Now they come from what machines hear. Hydrophones gave us an invisible world of sound, roars, rumbles, and cracks we never knew existed. The bloop was the first to leap from scientific data into the public imagination on such a scale. It also shows how fragile truth can be. Once the bloop was framed as a monster, that idea spread faster than correction ever could. Debunking rarely goes viral, but in the end, the facts stood firm. Scientists didn't stop the myth, but they clarified the record. Anyone who cared to look could find the truth, patiently documented. Climate scientists argue this patience is crucial. As ice collapses faster in a warming world, more sounds like the bloop will echo across the seas. Hydrophones will record them, not as mysteries, but as alarms. Each boom tells us glaciers are shrinking, seas are rising, and time is short. The bloop's roar was nature's voice demanding attention. Ultimately, the bloop teaches us two things. The ocean still surprises us, and humans will always weave stories around those surprises. NOAA solved the sound, but fascination remains. Mystery and truth coexist, each feeding the other. And in the deep Pacific, where microphones listen endlessly, new sounds will come, each with the potential to become the next legend. For the general public, the bloop remains a modern sea legend. Even knowing it was ice, people still whisper about monsters. That duality is powerful. It proves myths don't need to be true to survive. They live because they entertain, inspire, and give shape to the awe we feel when staring into the endless deep. Scientists, meanwhile, catalog the bloop as solved. It's filed alongside dozens of other odd ocean sounds. Yet among researchers, it holds a special place. It was a turning point, a moment when public attention intersected with marine science. For once, the world cared about hydrophones, sound waves, and the hidden voices of the ocean floor. The bloop also became a teaching tool. Professors used it in classrooms to explain sound propagation. Science communicators used it as an example of myth versus fact. Even NOAA referenced it in outreach campaigns, showing how data beats speculation. It turned into a perfect story arc. Mystery introduced, evidence gathered, truth revealed, wonder preserved. But perhaps the bloop's greatest gift was sparking curiosity. Many young scientists today recall first hearing about it online. The mystery drew them in. The science kept them there. This cycle, imagination leading to inquiry, is how exploration thrives. The ocean doesn't need monsters, but sometimes monsters lead us to science. In pop culture, the bloop still thrives. You'll find it in horror podcasts, cryptid documentaries, and internet memes. It's cited in fan theories, novels, and even gaming lore. Its endurance proves how a single unexplained event, amplified by technology and timing, can ripple outward for decades, long after the original sound faded away. For climate researchers, though, the bloop is more than culture. It's a reminder of ice's fragility. The same forces that produce the sound are destabilizing coastlines worldwide. Every collapse reshapes Earth's balance. The bloop may be solved as a noise, but its cause, collapsing ice, remains one of the most urgent scientific challenges of our century. This dual meaning makes the bloop unique. It is both solved and unsolved, mundane and mysterious. To science, it's ice cracking. To culture, it's a leviathan roaring. That contradiction fuels its immortality. Few phenomena can live comfortably in two worlds, but the bloop does. An acoustic Rorschach test reflecting what each of us wants to believe. In the end, the bloop wasn't a monster. It was our planet itself, groaning under stress. Mountains of ice broke apart, and the sea carried their thunderous voices thousands of miles. What we heard was Earth reminding us of its scale and fragility. That truth is more profound than any cryptid tale could ever be. So when you hear about the bloop, remember what it really represents. Not a creature hiding in the abyss, but the Earth speaking in its own language. A language of cracks, booms, and echoes that few ever notice. It was never about monsters. It was about listening to our planet more carefully. And that's the legacy of the bloop, a sound that started as mystery, transformed into myth, and finally revealed itself as science. It bridged curiosity and evidence, fear and wonder. It proved that truth doesn't end stories, it deepens them. The bloop roared once, but its echoes will last as long as humans tell tales of the sea.